Hello everybody, today I'm going to be taking a look at Mantic Games' new Halfling Starter Army for Kings of War. Okay, today I'm going to be looking at Mantic's new Halfling Army for Kings of War. So, this rather robust box contains a tiny man on a dog. In fact, it contains 20 tiny men on dogs, 40 Halfling fighters on foot, 1 sorcerer, and 1 lunatic gardener mounted on troll pushing giant lawnmower. Most important thing, it comes with Mantic points, and you get a big box. So what's our big box contain? So some bubble wrap bags of resin, bases, so 20mm for the infantry, 25x50s for the cavalry, and 100x50 for our troll machine. Don't think there's anything else I need in there, so it can go away. So there are 4 bags of hard plastic sprues, which will give us the cavalry and infantry. Then our bags of resin. So let's take a look at the sprues and then we'll zoom in and take a look at the resin after. Okay, so each of the 4 bags contains 3 sprues. We have the Alares. So these are mythical dog creatures. They come in either regular or winged varieties, although these are just regular. All of them have armoured pieces on them, and they're in halves. There are letters on them, which leads me to believe there may be specific ways you put them together. We have 2 A's, but then we have a B, C, and D, and an E. So does that mean A has to go together and the others can be mixed? We'll find out because I'll try. So moving on to Sprue 2, which has the rest of our dogs. Okay. So these dogs are B, C, D, and E. So they are specific halves for these, which must mean they are paired. I will still try and mix them because I'm like that, but that's interesting. Again, same sort of filigree detail on the dog's harnesses and armour. They can be made into joggers, so heavily armoured, or wild runners with either melee or ranged variant. Here we see one of the riders. One piece torso and body on a saddle. So should just sit in. See the dog heads. So 5 there. I think they are, they're again labelled for the specific dog, or Aralaz. I think I should probably use the right term, stop calling dogs. But again, I think you might be able to swap those around as well. A lot of head options, male and female. 2, 4, 6, 8, 15 head options, in fact, with a variety of unhatted, soft hatted, and armour hatted variety there. So nice amount of swappable bits. Then we have pairs of shields. So 5 sets of shields, doubled, and then sets of arms doubled, so we have hand weapon and shield. These hands that end in nubs, I believe, go with some of the alternate rifle hands, so that would be 8 for the rifles, which are on the last sprue. Again, nice detail, good crisp looking casts. Our final sprue, let's put it the right way up. So this one has the rest of our riders. Again, similar in style but individual. So quilted armor, breastplates. This one looks like they aren't wearing any armor at all, or maybe a small amount of quilting again. 5 sets of bodies. Again, pair of each to give you your 10 infantry. So each one of these bags makes 10 infantry and 5 cavalry. You can split them up any way you want. Nice level of sort of armor to cloth. So they don't look particularly heavily armored, but you can swap that around. Here we can see the arms. So a lot of spears, rifles, more hand weapons, and the rest of the rifles on this side. And again, it's always duplicate pairs. So if you've got one spear, then you'll have a second one the same. Likewise, one rifle, another one the same. Some nice detail on the buttstocks as well. Some metalwork on those. And one thing there is not enough weapons to do both mounted and foot with the same weapon. So if you want to do 10 spear, you can't also have 5 cavalry with spear. However, when building an army like the Halflings with a lot of units, it's unlikely you're going to want every single unit to have the same weapon type. So in the long run, you should have enough spares from one box to the other to change up whether you're making stalwarts or spearmen or braves or wild riders, whatever it happens to be. But that's our sprues of plastic halflings. So let's take a look at the resin. So this is the main body, bit of flash. Can't see any noticeable defects on the first sort of pass, like the big barrel there. We also have the majority of our forest troll, including his little gantry at the back for his halfling companion. I won't say commander, companion. So it looks like the 2 leg sections fit together, and once they're fit together, this then forms the junction for the waist. So mostly simple. 2 big hairy arms and our wheels for the majority of it. And then with a second bag. So here we have the head, handlebars, massive metal shield covered in spikes. Some nice texture on that as well. Pitting and modulation, nodules. So you could do that up as rust. You know, the one they've painted up has been done as sort of bronze patina. We have our halfling body and his pitchfork. That will require straightening. Or he's hit something particularly stout, like a lesser obsidian golem, for example. You stick one of those and it'll just bend your fork. So maybe that's what's happened. We have the other arm, head and exhausts for the engine, possibly. Time will tell. There's one other bag which contains our sorcerer. So have a quick look. And then we should go and assemble this. So 3 sprues. We have main body of Alvarez and sorcerer in one. Nice detailing on his frock coat there. Bit of clean up to do, bit of flash. Nothing too egregious. Can't see any slippage from the mold, so that's excellent. Then we have legs and wicker basket full of fruit and veg for the back of said halfling. And finally, casting arms, big mutton chop sideburn head, and another bag with more sundries. I think that's garlic sticking out there. So overall, looks like some good quality casting. Let's get them cleaned up and I should be back with them built in a moment. Alright, I'm back with the Halfling Army box for Kings of War. I'm going to start with our sorcerer on Arales. Lovely bit of resin. Went together very nicely. A little bit of cleanup I've left to do, so you can see some mold line connection or sprue gate connection points under this leg, and also there's a bit of a seam line in the hair on the tail, hair or fur, whatever it is. But overall, beautiful crisp cast and not much to do with it. Some lovely detail, leaning into the fact that it is a sorcerer, as in sorcerer. So he's got garlic and sausage and carrots and all sorts of bits and bobs for feed. I know some people aren't a fan of the comic halflings always eating, but there you go. If you don't like it, just remove that back and you can carve those off without any issue, and you could just replace that with something else. But I quite like it. I like his little Arales mount as well, to keep him up with the likes of the juggers and your other wild runners. Speaking of which, let's have a look at those plastics. So I built a few of each. Interesting thing, he said, knocking them all over. Probably my biggest complaint is there are specific rider bodies for specific Arales mounts. And by that I mean the width of the legs, let's just push these aside, is not consistent. So he's got quite a large bow, you can see there on the saddle. Then if I go and take this lady, oh, I can't, I've glued her on. Where's one of the other thin ones? Aha. So you can see there's quite a dramatic change there, which means less flexibility, less alternatives when you're building them, because everybody will have to go on a specific dog. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but if I just bring the dogs back in without the mounts, you can see there are 2 that are very narrow, there are 3 that are wider. These ones, you've a little bit of flexibility with it, but if you put the wrong body on the wrong mount, you'll still see sort of gappage around the saddle area, shall we say. So, but otherwise, easy builds. Seam lines run around the torso and legs, so they'll need a bit of cleanup. I haven't done any of that yet, but you can easily make the 3 different types. So you can have your wild runners with or without range weapons. So you can have your rifle options or just your hand weapon options. Or you can have them with spears if you'd like, or up armored and make them into juggers. So for a jugger, I just looked for one of the breastplate wielding ones, put an actual helm on him, and then pop him on his mount, and then that becomes your sort of medium cav with the more elite. Again, sort of armor on the front of the arrowless. Lovely sculpts. Interesting choice to go with the mounted dog. Also winged variants coming. And nice detail. A lot of heads on the sprue, but you only get 1 head per body. There are 15 heads, but 10 infantry and 5 cavalry. So while you can mix and match, you don't have spares. Everybody needs a head. So try and avoid dropping them on the floor. Infantry is the same. We have here one of our rifle wielding. So again, easy build. Seam lines run around the torsos and legs. Some models, they're a little bit more noticeable than others, but overall fairly restrained or easy to get to. So I'm not too worried about that. See here, another gentleman with that quilted coat on. And then we have our spear variants. So sharp spears. Gone for a sort of militia look on these guys. No helmets or top hat only. Should look very nicely when ranked up. And again, you've also got stalwart variant. So hand weapon, shield, breastplates, and helms to give the more heavy armoured elite halfling feel. Overall, really nice sprue. Like I say, it's just a shame there's not more variation with the arrowless mounts. There was one other big chunking piece of resin in this kit, which is our forest troll pushing his mower. It goes on this cavalry base. I've not attached the handlebars or the ogre to it yet, because I would be doing some base work. However, as you see, it fairly fills that 100mm base with his halfling compatriot hanging on the back and stabbing down. So if we have a look, his arms are separate. Just need to straighten out the pitchfork. I would suggest popping him on there with a bit of blue tack, or tacking one foot down with a small amount of glue to allow you to align the hand on this this backrest. These handlebars, there is a slight spring to them because you're going to have to push them in from these gaps on either side. Despite that slight spring, I would still suggest heating this part up, either with a hairdryer or with hot water. And then when it's soft, putting it in so you don't risk breaking any of these. The alternative is glue one arm on, slot this in, and then align the other arm to this second handlebar. But very nice model. I did have, oh, you can see there, I've started puttying up. I did have a big seam line here. I'm not sure if you line up the legs correctly. I had a bit of difficulty getting the belly to line up. And if you line up with the belly, then this line or this gap appears here. So I think I should have done a bit more cleanup on it. Impatient as always, I just pushed on. But it's a gap that comes in at a change between skin and cloth, so that gap will be easy to mask when I'm finished puttying it. But just something to watch out for. If you glue the legs so that you get a perfect join there, you'll probably find there's more of a noticeable gap around the torso. If you glue these separately, so leg to torso and then glue leg to torso on this side, you'll probably find there's more of a noticeable gap around the cloth. And I felt that was probably going to be harder to hide. So I decided to do it this way. Then it just goes into this brutal looking device. It slots in the back there and he'll be pushing from behind. So fairly easy build. All you were really doing was putting on these exhausts and then this main plate, and then just removing all of those tabs, of which there were quite a few, but they were attached at flat areas of the cutting blade. So not a major issue. And, and of course the two wheels had to go on the back, which are a little bit crooked, but I don't think that makes a difference when it's a massive lawnmower being pushed by a troll. So there we have it. That is the contents of the Halfling Army for Kings of War. So there we have it. Interesting army. Some nice new figures in there. Well, a totally new range from Mantic, in fact. I like how they've given it their own twist. And also things like the forest trolls with halfling attendants on their backs, shall we say, being press ganged into pushing war machines or being firing platforms. Interesting stuff. I also like the Arales, get that one right, Armenian folk sort of mythology. I'm surprised we haven't seen more giant dogs before now, winged or unwinged. But yeah, terrific looking stuff. Very impressed with it. Interesting to see where Mantic go next. I hear something about Riftforge orcs coming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.